After using a more traditional publisher for numerous books, you chose to custom publish Boston Inspirational Women and were very successful, making your investment back in very little time. To what do you attribute your success?
Well, it helped me that I had 3 books under my belt, which was, I think, important. So people knew when I had another book coming out that they knew who I was, and they had followed me. A lot of people followed my career. So when I decided to do this 4th book with my daughter, I knew the market, I knew the subjects, I knew that women buy. I think 75% of the sales made in this country are made by women. So I wanted something that women would look at. So I couldn't go wrong when I had this women's book because I felt this was a home run. And with my daughter participating, she was younger. She wanted younger people, and I was older, and I wanted more seasoned people who have accomplished more. The word inspirational is all women are inspirational. So I could have 10 volumes on this book, but we decided to limit it to a certain amount of photographs at a certain amount of time and make them black and white. Because I think black and white is timeless. You don't know when it was taken, and people love to look at something nostalgic. Steve Jobs, when he did this book on his biography, that when the writer is actually, I was in this hotel, I photographed him, and I said it must have been exciting to do, a man like him. And he said, I've known him for 30 years, but it's really easy to do. But the hang-up was the photograph. And he said that we had a beautiful photograph of Steve Jobs. It was a colored photograph. He said, no, it has to be black and white because I want it timeless. When somebody looks at the book, they don't know when it was taken. And if it was colored, they knew it was recent. So recent could be 25 years, but he wanted something that was timeless. So I knew black and white when I remember speaking with him and photographing him that I wanted to do black and white. My other books are mostly black and white because of the timeless aspect of it. So my recommendation to anyone who's going to do a book, if it's a written book or a photography book, know your audience. Know who would buy the book. You pick the subject, and once you pick the subject, you get to people, you know the product. And if you know what the market is out there, what people are looking for, it's a lot easier. And so I've been successful with women, I couldn't go wrong. People of the city, it couldn't go wrong. And then to find the people to purchase the book is the other thing, is to find individuals that connected to certain companies that would be an entree for you to get into the company, but you're able to sell a book. And when you have book parties, it's a lot easier when you have somebody to sponsor the book for you, because you're not really there hoping that you might sell 5 books or 10 books, because when the individual brings you into their home or office, they don't want to embarrass you. People love the book, but people are in a hurry. The time is you're fighting time. Time is very important to people today. But if you get somebody to sponsor the book, it makes it a lot easier. So you don't have any problem selling the book because you know the book is sold before you even get there.
In order for a book, particularly a custom published book, to be quite successful, an author has to constantly work to promote it and market themselves. What advice would you give others on being their own advocate? What is your approach when you speak of yourself and of your book?
Well, I try to be as humble as I can. I appreciate people to buy the book, and I try to explain why I did the book. If you have a purpose, it makes it a lot easier. And I start with small newspapers, radio stations, anybody that will listen to me, give me an opportunity to speak. Big papers are hard to get into. They only want the people who are well-known, or it's got to be really a niche that no one else has done. In today's world, it's hard to find a niche because a lot of things have been done. What you try to do is recreate yourself to make it come in a different direction. And those things have worked for me, and I think it'll work for other people.
When you first approach a store or company or a media outlet, do you email them, call them, write a letter, or do you show up in person? How do you get in?
My best is personal. If you have a personal contact with somebody in that company, that's been worked out very well for me. Letters were okay. I did send some letters. I didn't get the response I thought I would. Emails, forget about it because there's thousands and they don't look at them all. But if you find somebody who works for a company, I think that's your best way. You find a secretary or an executive or somebody that you can get that one book in their hands and they become the salesperson for you.
Do you have any selling tips that you have about how you make a sales pitch? And also, how important for you were the idea of pre-sales? I know you did a tremendous amount of pre-sales.
Pre-sales are important because the fact that you have to pay the initial investment that comes out of your pocket. So for pre-sales, it's really important before you place your order. Because if you have half of the order already purchased and your money in the bank, it's a lot easier. I think the pre-sales is really important before you place your order, because then you know exactly where you are. Once the order is placed and you have an X amount of books, pressure is put on you to sell the books. And I think nobody wants pressure put on them. You know, there's enough pressure to produce the book. Now it's like part two. You know, the writers who work on it for years, or a photographer does the same thing. It's so much easier if you get them pre-sale, because it takes that pressure once the books come out.
There's no denying, if you've had a relationship with the Boston Globe for years. People know your name. People know your other books. Is there a single piece of advice you would give to people who don't have the name recognition you have, or are just
really
trying to
hard.
get their foot in the door?
It is hard. I mean, it took me, I'm approaching my 50th year at the Boston Globe, so it took me 50 years to get where I am today. It just doesn't happen overnight.
Your book and your work, your photography, is eye-catching and beautiful. How important do you think is the quality of the book when you've gone the route of custom publishing, when you're trying to sell it? How important is the look and feel of your book?
Very important. Yeah, it's a finished product, and when you get a finished product in somebody's hand, I mean, when they look at it, that's the time when they make the decision as they open it up and they say, "Oh, I like this." And if the quality isn't up to whatever it is, the writing or the photography, you will suffer from it. So you really have to make it your best presentation.
What do you think is the most rewarding thing about publishing your own book?
Well, when you're leaving something that when you're not here someday, you're leaving something behind that could be, you really made a contribution to whatever if you've written about it, or photographed it, that'll be in somebody's home or somebody's library. They'll always be part of the history of wherever you were or whatever you tried to do with it. And not everybody's able to do that. In life, we only here for a certain amount of time, and if we can make the best of it and enjoy it, I think it's just a wonderful feeling to have a book published.
Now, hindsight is 20/20, but is there anything you wish you would have known going into the publishing process for Boston Inspirational Women that you know now?
I wish that I met you earlier. And I mean that. I mean, it was more rewarding for me that the fact that it's a women's book, and I was associated with women. My daughter did it with me. Everybody was a woman, and I was the only guy. And I thought, for me, it was a piece of cake.
So I guess, would you do it again is a good close, but...
Well, I'd do it again. I would definitely do it again. I would do... I don't think I'd do another part of this women right away, but my next thing is I want to do the Boston Irish people.
What's the name of the book you're working on now?
Boston Irish. Of 50 years in Boston.